What is up? What's poppin'? You know it ain't no stopping. It is your boy, the International Sensei, and welcome back to the Enter the Dojo podcast, your source for all things fighting related, whether that is fighting games or combat sports. And today I am bringing it back to the FGC side because I know it has been a minute since I've done some like FGC stuff. I talked a little bit about like, taking breaks, but that was kind of like a crossover type of thing. So this episode is about an interesting conference that I went and watched today. This is gonna drop on Friday, so I went and watched it on a Wednesday, which is like the 24th of June. Um, but it was dope, and I think that more conferences like this should go on because what happens a lot is like a lot of big name players in the esports game. They have their platform, and all they do is take a metaphorical crap on the people that are trying to come up, whether that's people that are brand new and saying, oh, well, they take this from this person, they take that from that person, whatever. And I think one of the things that people fail to realize, which was touched on, like, oh my goodness, they touched on it so much. The fact that esports, like, just became a viable career, like, not too long ago. Like, let's be real. Esports was not a viable career, like, not even, let's say, 5 years ago. Like, legitimately, it was not a viable career, like, 5, 10 years ago. And I think a lot of people forget that when they get to a certain place where they're making all this money and they have this big platform and all these Twitch subs, blah, blah, blah. Also, speaking of Twitch, I finally got affiliate. You know, make a sound effect or the fireworks and all of that. But yeah, I mean, you have like people with these huge platforms that don't understand that you really are very fortunate. This is just becoming a thing where like you can legitimately make a living off of Twitch. And when I say just becoming a thing, I mean like legitimately like it's not been around for that long where people are making great money. Like because before it was like the very very small majority. You had to be literally the best in the world or the best ever, and you were still like living like tournament to tournament or living off of tournament wins and stuff like that. I think nowadays, I mean, it's a lot better, which is great. But they touched on a lot of stuff. One of the main things was, I think F word was. I mean, it was stacked. Like F word was on there. It was so many like awesome players in the esports game that were on there. The boy Tasty Steve was there. It was dope, man. It was dope. And shouts out to Aaron Ashley Simon who ran it. It was the end of game conference call type of deal. It was dope, man. It was dope. And I think I don't know. I think like esports is definitely a viable career path. But one of the main things was that I like pulled from was the casting side, obviously because I'm a caster. And it was just like Tasty Steve and F Word just talking about finding your voice in a lot of ways, but also listening to what people like. I mean, if you make a similar reference, if you make a similar sound that people resonate with, you know what I mean? Like, even though it is somewhat, I guess, passe or commonplace to like do the ha ha ha, ooh ooh ooh, like sound effect for combos in certain games, it's warranted. Like when you have like a team game and these long combo strings are going on, of course, like you can like break up the monotony with that. And you don't need to do it every time because there's some people that are freaking beatboxing through the entire uh, damn match. But it's good to sprinkle that in there here and there because it's fun. It adds more character. It gives you more energy. One of the things I don't know if I might have missed it or something because I was listening to this while I was streaming to twitch.tv slash international underscore sensei is the stream. But one of the main things was touching on the fact that you kind of have to, I don't know, like integrate just like different elements to your game. You know what I mean? You have to be kind of like I would say like a unicorn of sorts. Like I did talk about before, where you need to have like your play-by-play or color, or you need to have like your hype monster and your scientist. But trying to find a way to be both of those. And another big thing is understanding when to highlight the hype moments. That is one of the biggest things. That's one thing that I've gotten very good at, and I think it's one of the main things that helps is it has to be a game that you like. Like if it's a game that catches your eye and you enjoy, you're gonna be able to do that so easily because you know what the instances are, but two, it's like you're excited about what you're watching. You know what I mean? I see so many people that are again just being like game whoring and going for the Capcom games and going for games that they really don't like, as opposed to going for like an anime title which may not get as much play, but you're going to get a lot more opportunity, or an NRS game which you might not get as much quote unquote play as far as the competitive play, but you get a lot of opportunities because the community is smaller, but they really embrace those who show love for the game. But really, just like being able to catch those big moments. Being able to stall was a great thing that they mentioned. I mean, obviously, like you got to be able to stall, and I've gotten better at this over the years just because I've had to do it so much. Like final round, was it 2018? Yeah, it was. Or was it 2019? 2018, 2018. It was 2019. So final round 2019. We had a little incident where there was no ramp, like the hotel forgot to put in a ramp or something for one of the disabled players, and they were unable to get on the stage. So what had happened was we had to scrap the entire stream setup and pull it down so that the disabled player could play on an even playing field because we just did not have a way to get them up the ramp. I mean, on the stage, excuse me, not up the ramp because there was no ramp. And that took probably like 20 minutes. So we were stalling. And it was tough because the person that I was trying to stall with didn't know the scene that well. And that's another thing. Like sometimes you're going to get paired with the person that doesn't know the scene. So sometimes you got to carry the load. But in that particular point, I did not know how to stall that well. So, I mean, we were talking about anything. I mean, we started talking about sandwich making, like freaking cereal tiers and stuff. Like, and then like we brought it back to the game. Oh my god! I think I like ran behind some guy. There's a clip out there somewhere. I'll try to find it. I ran behind some guy and I just started like dancing behind him because he was like the resident sleeper in the crowd. You know what I mean? He like fell asleep. But but stalling is really important. Like having like bullet points. And I remember I had to do it at DreamHack and I did it really well. One of the things that happened, I mean, over that week was action packed. So we brought up Tekken. We talked about ABO because the guy that I was casting with knows a lot of Tekken, doesn't know much MK. And then I fed him stuff that he could ask me. So like you could do that. You could prepare questions for him. So then he was like, hey, so as far as the point breakdown, who's in the lead, who's this, who's that, or as far as like certain matchups, what character fits in this. And you can have a dialogue, and it's great when you have somebody that you can like ping pong back and forth off of, and it's magical. And it obviously it depends on the situation. Obviously, like a situation with me and Uncle Jay, the kind of like jokey and fun loving segueing where you're just talking about whatever, you're basically just shooting the breeze with your boy. That was perfect. It was like magic because people just wanted to hear us talk. You know what I mean? People just wanted to see what we were going to do next. Like I remember I said chips no dip, and my son literally pulled out a bag of chips. And I'm like, yo, what the hell? I was like, yo, this dude is a god because I did it. And people thought I planned that. We didn't plan it, but everybody was like, yo, that was dope. You and him made magic and stuff like that. So it helps. So it helps being able to segue, whether that's being able to segue at like a party quote unquote event that's still gaming related, where you're just filling just filling the audience with different content about what's going on in the event or what's going on in the series. If you're at like a major tournament, what's going on through the season. It's really important to be able to segue and fill. That's more important than anything. Is fill, because you can like the game, like that's the easy part. Learning the game, understanding it, all the mechanics. Now it's time to perform it, which is just casting and talking about situations and talking about different elements of the game, talking about matchups, character versus character, why a team might go for a specific character switch, and things like that. And that's one thing that translates game to game to game, whether that is fighting games, whether that is MOBAs, whether that is MMOs, whether that is shooters. Like, it translates game to game to game to game. And I think that it's, well, I would say a little more nuanced with like fighting games, and then games like shooters like Overwatch, shooters like Paladins. I just started playing more Paladins, Valorant, stuff like that, stuff like League. Um, just games where there's a lot of variability in composition. I think what kind of gets lost in like certain titles like Gears and Call of Duty, character doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? It's gun versus gun. You know what I mean? You're not really like, if you pick another character, you just picked another character. You just picked another skin. Whereas if I'm playing a fighting game and I'm playing Tekken, if I play Eddie versus this Law versus me playing Negan versus Law, there's a potential for a lot more different outcomes. You know what I mean? Whereas I'm just picking a different gun in Gears of War or blah, 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 or like a CS:GO or whatever. But again, there's still a lot of depth to those situations. But it was probably it was the best, I would say, my personal opinion, because I've listened to a good amount of like esports professionals and esports members just talk about it. I think this is probably one of the best I've ever listened to, just from the fact that everybody was there to help grow esports. Not everyone, like people, because a lot of people, and I said it earlier, there's a lot of people that have platforms that could be extremely helpful, but they talk about the don'ts. And the don'ts are important, but you don't yourself out of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you'll be thinking don't, instead of thinking about, okay, what should I do? What did I do well? You know what I mean? And I think this was so important to where it was a lot of do's. There were a couple of don'ts in there, and there were don'ts that were very important. I mean, obviously, like, don't curse, don't be late. I hate when people are late. I'm always like an hour early to events. Even if it's like a local, I'll be there like 30 minutes or so early. Like, even if it's like, I'll go grab, even if I'm like an hour early and they're like, we don't need you till this time, I'll run and get a snack or something, and I'll still be there 10 minutes or so before it's time to go to showtime. ABO, I was like 40 minutes early. I helped set up. Because you really, it's all about relationships. You got to build relationships with these people. If you don't build relationships, you don't get events. If I didn't build the relationship that I have with my boy Darius, like, that's the homie, but he saw my initiative. He saw how much I was grinding MK. He saw how often I did MK. I mean, I did MK, like, just tournaments sometimes 2-3 times a week, whether that was online or locally, and just grind. And then from getting MK at DreamHack, I got MK at KIT, and then I got MK with Aquaman and MK with Console Gaming League. And then we did the Falcon Stadium. But we've done like a bunch of events just from the simple fact that they know my face, they know my voice, they know that I'm consistent, they know I'm on time or early, and I'm able to match with different personalities. And it's a dope environment. I mean, obviously, I'm not at the position where I want to yet, but it's an environment where I'm willing to keep pushing towards. You know what I mean? Pushing towards my goals. And it's great to have discussions like that. I would love to, when I do get my name up, or even if it's like, even just now, like, quote unquote up and coming, like, esports professionals and people who do host and do events and things like that. I would love to have like a talk with people like Uncle Jay and like Miss Wonder Woman in Tennessee, someone like damn, I'm just like drawing a blank right now. But you get what I mean. Just there's people that are just like emerging in the esports scene, like young kids who are trying to get into esports. Because I get asked all the time. Like, I've gotten DMs from people that I didn't even knew who the hell I was, and they're like, "Oh, you think your commentary is dope?" And like, "Hey, can you give me some tips about commentating?" Blah blah blah. And I'll share some tips now. Main thing, one of the main things is, I always say it: play the game you like. Second thing, watch the action. I don't know. I do this. People might think it's weird, but I watch the game, no sound, and I just like think through scenarios. I don't say anything out loud, but I like think through scenarios.